My name is Joe Owen. I'm an expert on leadership. I write about it, I talk about it, and I even do it. In this programme, I'm going to help a head teacher with the sort of leadership challenge many schools face. Brockworth Enterprise School came out of special measures 5 years ago, but has started slipping back again. With the extra money gone, many of the problems that got it into special measures in the first place have returned. Head teacher Paul Elliott was brought in to get the school back on track, but he can't do it all himself. This has to be a team effort.
You know, the exam results were very poor.
Our leadership is not very well distributed between the sexes.
I would like to be able to share with Joe's experience as a guru in leadership and help me to formulate a plan to get it right.
Time to find out if Planet Business and Planet Education will collide or collaborate. On Planet Business, we call distributed leadership delegation. Heroic leaders often don't delegate, and in reality, they're often heroic failures. Delegation isn't about abdicating responsibility, it's about sharing responsibility, sharing the burden and giving your team the chance to grow and shine. So what sort of leader makes a good delegator? Think for a moment of Genghis Khan and Mother Teresa. Now swap them around. Have Genghis Khan sorting out Calcutta and Mother Teresa leading the Mongol hordes. It doesn't really work. So we can learn two things from this. First of all, leadership is very much about context. Second, if we try to be an implausible mix of Mother Teresa, Genghis Khan, Nelson Mandela and Lord Nelson, we're likely to come up short. So the question is, what sort of leadership works best in schools?
You must be Joe.
I'm Joe Owen.
Welcome.
Paul, nice to meet you.
Come through.
Great, good. So just tell us for a moment from your perspective about why distributing leadership is so important to you.
In a very simple answer, you end up trying to do it all yourself otherwise, and you can't do that. And I'm acutely aware of the need that the staff have to be led, and to be comfortable, and to be confident. And it's more acute the need, the school having dropped considerably in its performance 2 years ago. So I arrived and picked up quite a bruised staff, and they're very keen to be shown the right way.
What we might try now is I pulled together a kind of real quick questionnaire, and it's just a checklist for helping think through, are we distributing leadership effectively? Just go through it, and you're welcome to just sort of talk about each one as you go through it. And this is really from the perspective of the staff.
From their perspective, a good balance of routine and non-routine responsibility.
Right, so from their perspective, am I just being delegated all the routine rubbish, or am I actually getting a balance of the routine and the interesting stuff?
They would probably be neutral to agree on that.
Okay.
Now, the understanding what they're meant to achieve, I think they would probably disagree with that.
That's interesting.
Maybe I'm being too hard on our system, but I think maybe they would. I have the resources to deliver what I'm meant to achieve. They'll definitely disagree with that. Guarantee that.
Right.
Maybe even strongly.
Right. Let's just pick up on a couple of these because they're quite interesting responses. When you delegate, do you look for people to have all the skills that are required for them to deliver that, or do you take a risk?
If possible, I would take a risk.
Because I think that's the only way that people actually develop is if you stretch them beyond where they're already comfortable.
I agree with that, and I think because of that, you'll probably find there'll be more people saying, I need more skills as we go on, because it's into the unknown. It's a shot into the dark. Yeah.
So in many ways, we'd want to see people saying, I don't think I have the skills.
That's right, yeah.
And that would be quite a healthy sign.
Yes.
How much of your time is spent on maintaining the present versus how much of your time is on creating the future?
Personally, I'm spending probably 60% of my time maintaining the present and about 40% in strategy, in planning, in vision. But I don't think the rest of my team are anywhere near that. They're spending too much time maintaining the present. We find ourselves bogged down with the day-to-day, semi-routine, enormous number of tasks that have to be done to maintain the present. And that's the reason why we're trying to develop the leadership capacity in the school, to give ourselves a chance to break those shackles. And we have to do it.
The first rule of business survival is be loyal to your boss. Any boss asking for honest feedback is likely to create a plague of loyal dishonesty. Is that going to happen here? Most people are too loyal to be honest, especially in public. Instead, a short survey might tease the truth out of them. How they tick the boxes has some value, but the real value comes when they explain their choices.
Right. Enough leadership responsibility is distributed.
It's obviously difficult answering these. As you say, it's a snapshot, but we live in a dynamic, ever-changing world. I suppose it depends on who you ask, and you're asking me. I somewhat agree, I think.
So enough leadership responsibility is distributed. I would agree with that.
I somewhat disagree a bit. I think some people have got more responsibility than others.
There are actually an awful lot of people in this school who have responsibility and who have time to do it. And actually, I suppose there may be a case of too many chiefs, not enough Indians.
It sometimes gets passed so that somebody else has to pick up the pieces.
So buck passing.
Yes.
Maybe men are more favoured, but that may be my point of view from being a female. I don't know.
I mean, if we just look at that objectively as opposed to sort of subjectively for a moment. Senior leadership team, what's the gender mix there?
One female, two, is it 4 assistant heads and 2 deputies and 1 head? So what's that, 7 people? So 1 female, 2, 7 people.
And you've got a newly created middle
leadership team,
What's
which is
that
more
look like?
mixed. We do have 7 people, which 3 are females, so it is a lot more mixed. But I just worry sometimes when I see people moving into jobs and they're more male. I worry that what there is to offer for me.
The staff have reached their verdict on Paul's efforts. Over 30 staff returned our survey, but their answers need some careful interpretation. The good news is that his senior leadership team is very enthusiastic about the way that he is distributing leadership amongst them. The challenge is how to distribute leadership all the way down. As with many businesses, the people who feel least empowered and least engaged are those in the front line. So there are the averages, and just take a look at them. The overall averages are not bad. The way to read this, again, knowing that we have loyal staff who like to be nice, is that realistically a somewhat agree is neutral. A neutral is not very happy about it, and a strongly agree is you're doing pretty well. So you have to sort of knock everything back one down just to get the honest reading of where you are. I know that's a hard reading of it, but let's be tough on ourselves.
And with respect to the top level support, that's probably a little bit lower than I would have liked it to be. But maybe it fits in with my feeling about communication.
Right.
So I would agree with that. I would agree with their disagreement.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, that makes absolute sense. The really interesting thing about the survey wasn't actually the averages, because if we look at the human population is, on average half male and half female, and that tells you nothing about any human whatsoever. The interest is the distribution and the nature of the distribution. Essentially, what's happening is your senior leadership team is really enthusiastic about what you're doing. The challenge is to get that best practice all the way through to the front line. Now, that's the oldest story in the book, that actually it's always the front line troops who feel, in a sense, the least engaged and the least empowered. So the question is how we do that. When staff come in to your office, how often are they bringing a monkey in which you take off their back? How often are you letting them deal with the monkey themselves? And how often do you let them deal with the monkey and then take one of your monkeys out as well?
Well, it's a pretty astute question. I think I take on too many monkeys. And I think probably my top management would agree with that. And they try to protect that. Now I want to try and, without appearing to be unapproachable to the staff, develop more the capacity to actually shed monkeys.
Most leaders will recognise Paul's situation. They know what needs to change, but how do you actually get it done when the daily grind keeps you from planning ahead? Paul is having to do a lot of firefighting. Firefighting is heroic, but it's ineffective. Good leaders don't fight fires, they prevent fires. That requires the less heroic disciplines of planning, controlling, measuring, and delegating. These are exactly the disciplines of any good car maker. Shouldn't schools have the same disciplines? Can you produce pupils like cars? One thing's for sure, rectifying mistakes at the end of the line is a costly disaster. Pete Simpkin is the manufacturing planning manager for Land Rover, and he's seen his company through some tough times. But now he's implemented a new system which has moved them from fighting fires to raising performance. Building cars needs constant measurement and constant improvement. But how about schools? You have to get it right from the start and then on every step of the way, or you end up with a bad car or a pupil not fulfilling their potential. Pete took us to one of his team leaders' work areas. For such a high-tech plant, their monitoring aids are very low-tech, but very visual.
Targets and actuals, simple prompts, use red and green a lot to tell you are you on track or off track. So simple things like what are my responsibilities every day as a team leader.
The wig
He comes in and he starts out with them all red that says I've got to do this today, so I need to update my work group board, update the measures. Once he's done it, he just turns the card over to say I've completed it. So very simple visual management, so you can quickly see, and the team leader knows which tasks he's got still outstanding for the day. He's got his prompt sheet, so simple.
just looks at that, one check, he knows where he is on the day.
So this is showing how we take the targets from the senior level in the business and break them down through the management layers until you get down to the people who actually build the car. And what this really does, it means there's absolute transparency. Everybody can see what their boss is and the boss's targets and objectives are. And it creates a sense of trust.
It looks so simple, doesn't it, in theory, but I can imagine taking the school's targets and actually saying, right, how do we really break this down? It's actually quite difficult to do.
The transparency we found, when we put it onto one page, suddenly the transparency, everybody started to trust what was going on because they could see, wait a minute, I understand my boss's objectives now.
Sounds great. Where does it go wrong? I mean, what makes it difficult and what are the challenges? Because you look at this and go, this is so simple, it's powerful, it's transparent, you get accountability, it's the right system of support, you go, fine.
I think the biggest issue is the trust issue.
Right.
And engaging people. Do they, are people really serious about this? Is there a hidden agenda with it? It's just the trust that only comes over time, and that's about relationships.
This visible and low-tech approach to data monitoring is impressive in its simplicity. But the real question is, how did the staff on the shop floor take to the new system? What was the reaction like from the line when they started talking about these new fangled systems and everything like that?
It's very daunting to begin with because it seems a bit like a steamroller. There's quite a lot to take on board to actually achieve this. But once we start unravelling the envelope, if you like, and sort of going into it, chomping off bit by bit, because of the structured way that it was delivered to us. And it would only work with the guys buying into it on the shop floor, because obviously we've got to maintain it.
Their practical monitoring systems are highly effective, but Paul wanted to find out why they were implemented in the first place.
Okay, you mentioned, I think you changed this about 3 or 4 years ago. What made you decide to embark upon such a huge change?
We felt that as a business we were all extremely busy, and the leadership team and the managers and the supervisors, there wasn't a lack of effort. Everybody was working ridiculous hours, but we weren't making enough progress. We just seemed to be working harder and harder and harder and just treading water. We'd make an improvement, then we'd slip back, make an improvement, slip back. We made a conscious decision, we'd got to change that, and we'd actually got to invest that same level of energy and drive into systems and processes and inputs, and just really get, and it's transformed the plant. It's a lot more stable, in control. It's just a lot better environment, and we find now that the managers and leaders have actually got more time to actually do that thinking and reflecting, and the coaching and work on the behavioural stuff as well as just the hard outputs. And we call it inverting the pyramid, away from this top-down direct and coach to
Supporting.
bottom up. We're here to support you and help you, and it creates a level of trust that historically we haven't had in this plant.
Trust is a very important word, isn't it?
It is. It is.
And I was also very taken by the simple but transparent approach to everything. Your policies, the policy on whatever, was broken down into different levels of what it meant to a senior manager, what it meant to a shop floor worker. The same policy.
Yeah. We deliberately make the information as transparent as we can so people can see there's no hidden agendas. The sort of things you saw out there, we don't do a lot of computer generated graphs, and it's quick visual management. You can walk around to any part of the plant and you can see where the problems are. Is it red, is it green? It's very, very quick. Within a couple of minutes you can walk into an area and you know whether it's, you can scale it and say, is this an area that needs help and support, or is it an area that we need to come and look at because we need to go and replicate this in other areas. So it's very simple, very quick.
So how was that?
Fantastic. Amazing how such a large organisation, what is it, 7,000 people?
Something like that.
You all know what they're doing, they're all getting on with it.
So,
And they're all contributing.
if I had to put you on the spot, your takeaways, 3 takeaways?
Get out there as a senior leader every single day and don't stop doing it.
Right.
Every single day.
So you can see what's going on.
Yeah. So you can see, you can listen, and vice versa.
So that's first takeaway, get out there. Second?
I think the delegation route is clear because the data search, the trail for data is so transparent. So in fact there's no need to worry about if something will be done because it's self-checking.
So you've got that transparency.
That gives you the support, but also the people doing the various levels of performance, their own support.
Third takeaway?
Look at the input of the process, not the output. The output's too late.
So don't wait for exam time.
Don't wait for exam time. Find a way of having a regular, very, very regular check, a health check. The word health check was used there. I think it's a very important tool. How we're doing each week towards our goal.
And you think that would make a difference in school?
I think it'll make a massive difference in school.
Okay. Big ask. How are you going to do it?
We've semi-started it, I think, from the point of view of focusing upon data. Do all the staff know where all of their students should be going? Have they planned a route to that end post? Do they really understand the data? And I think the next stage is to generate some visual tools that help them to remind themselves where they're going and where they've got to.
Paul is buzzing with enough ideas to last a lifetime. The challenge is putting ideas into action. So I've decided to return to Brockworth after just a few days to work with Paul and his deputy head, Peter Humphreys, to see what changes they can implement in school. What's the real pressure for change? I mean, well, 2 bits. First of all, how big is the change here? Is it really 18 months, 2 years of pain that we're looking at? And secondly, is there really the appetite for that level of change? So how much change, and is there the appetite for it?
I think we're lucky because Paul's come in and you've already started that process. People want the support, and certainly we have to because exam results need to improve.
We have a moral imperative to get this right.
Right, there's a moral imperative, but often change only happens when there's real pain. Okay, you're about to lose your job if you don't improve. That's pain. All right.
We're about to go into special measures.
That is exactly that's the reality of it, basically. And that message, although not in those words, it's got to be, I think, very clearly said in this institution.
Peter is right. Special measures is a very powerful motivator for change. You couldn't miss this when you went out on the plant. Everywhere there were signs about what was meant to be happening, where it was meant to be happening, and you could at a moment's notice see exactly what was going on. Now, the denouement of this is that clearly once you know exactly what everyone is meant to be doing and how they're meant to be doing it, you then track how they're doing it. In fact, you don't, they track themselves. Can that be translated into this environment where there may be a lot more sensitivity around? Can you have that degree of clarity over really how things are going for each member of staff?
I think you can, and I think you must.
How would the staff react?
I think they'd actually want that, because as opposed to it being done to them, they're actually playing a part in it. Because if they can see with the part they play in the big picture, then how is what I've done today fit in with that? And I actually make progress, and are my students making progress as well? And I think the staff, have they got the capacity to do that? I think they have.
I think they have, yeah.
So Paul is finding that senior management is buying into these radical ideas from Land Rover. But are the staff ready for it? To find out, I've got 3 questions for them. 2 easy ones and 1 killer. First, would you like to see your senior leadership on a regular, structured walkabout? Is that relevant for Planet Education?
Definitely. I think it's something that should be done.
Maybe senior management should be more prominent.
Well, I think there's an argument that formal, lengthy, laborious and intensive lesson observations can have diminishing returns and value. And I think the idea of a walkabout with a specific agenda, where you get around very, very quickly and see an enormous amount of things, is totally justifiable and good practice.
Second, would you like to see school policies broken down into what it means for each level of staff?
I do definitely think that would be a very good idea, so that we could all know who's doing what, and communication would be a lot better.
I think the whole thing about mission statements, vision statements, and accountability, which might be defined in quantitative terms, if you know what I'm saying, should be all around.
We're very good at having posters up or information telling students what we expect of them, what our expectations are of them, what they should expect for us. But it's not always clarified of what's expected of teachers or what is expected of other staff.
Now for the next logical, killer question. Would you like to see the performance of all teaching staff displayed on a daily basis? How would teachers react to their performance, if it can be measured, being measured so visibly and publicised so visibly maybe in the staff room?
Yeah, that's an enormously difficult one to answer.
I think there'd be many negative consequences from that, and I think the school can be quite unionised at times, and I can see union implications from that, which I know would cause Paul grave concern.
It could cause a problem. They'd have to carefully scan that and see, and do it very carefully, because that would cause a problem with staff. They're very quick to pick up on things like that. But you know, if it's structured well and done well, I'm sure there's a way around that could be done.
I would say that that professionalism demands empowerment. Now, how that's done is a moot point. So at the moment, in terms of the question that I've just been asked, I would think that could be disempowering for some. It's all a matter, isn't it, again, of the way that a head teacher, wherever, shares a vision and sells new policies. So at the moment, within this institution, and I would think most, that would be a peculiarly and particularly threatening idea to quite a few people. Some would welcome it, and you can probably tell by my statement, I'm somewhere in the middle at the moment.
Okay, quick couple of minutes summary.
Paul has 2 easy wins and 1 tough challenge. The easy wins are the structured management walkabouts and the more transparent school policies. The tough challenge is getting clear, consistent and transparent performance measures. Without those, improving performance is difficult. Like Land Rover, Paul has quite a journey ahead of him. Just your reflections on the journey so far, recognising that in a sense all we've done is start. what will be a much longer journey?
One fundamental issue has changed. I was very keen to find a way to distribute the leadership for good reasons right through the organisation. And if I'm honest, it was to try and make it, in my own mind, be more efficient. I hadn't thought really beyond initial ideas for that, but to see in Landover this week so clearly the need to get out there into where the work is done every single day, the power that that gives you and also your staff is just number one.
How long do you think the journey is going to be?
I would reckon about a year to effect a big change.
Okay, that's ambitious.
I think I don't have any longer than a year to get it right.
Well, that's a compelling reason to make it a year. Paul has only 1 year to implement his vision of delegated leadership. It's very ambitious and only possible if he gets the entire school behind him on this radical journey.
I think it's to see it so clearly how they've transformed the lives of 7,000 workers. That's a massive achievement. Now, there's a message to be taken from that, a lesson to be learned, I think, by us. And I've learned that lesson.
Paul has quite a challenge. He's going to need to be a combination of Genghis Khan and Mother Teresa. Genghis Khan to make some very tough decisions, and Mother Teresa to bring the staff with him. Planet Education is just as tough as Planet Business.